As you can see, it is very clearly written that alpha and beta belongs to C. And what does it mean? It means they are complex numbers, and they are also the distinct roots of this quadratic equation x square minus x plus 1 is equal to 0. And what you have to find? You have to find the value of alpha to the power 101 plus beta to the power 107. So organizing it, what does it mean? It means first we have to solve the quadratic equation, then second what we have to find exactly what they are, and then third what happens when they are raised to such exponents. Now solving it, we'll first solve the quadratic equation using the formula. We'll get alpha as 1 plus iota root 3 by 2 and beta as 1 minus iota root 3 by 2. As we can brush up from our memory that the cube root of unity are 1 omega and omega square, where omega is minus 1 plus iota root 3 by 2 and omega square is minus 1 minus iota root 3 by 2. If you see alpha 1 plus iota root 3 by 2 and omega square minus 1 minus iota root 3 by 2, you will be very clearly be able to say that alpha is nothing but minus omega square. And if you are going to see beta and omega, beta is 1 minus iota root 3 by 2 and omega is minus 1 plus iota root 3 by 2. So beta is nothing but minus omega. Now substituting the alpha and beta in terms of omega in the equation, we will be able to write minus omega square to the power 101 plus minus omega to the power 107. Minus would be coming out since both the powers are odd numbers. The expression is going to be omega to the power 202 into omega to the power 207. Omega to the power 202 can be written as omega to the power 201 into omega, where omega to the power 201 is a multiple of 3, and omega to the power 107 can be written as omega into 5 into omega square. As we know, omega to the power 3k is going to be 1, so omega to the power 202 would be replaced by omega, and omega to the power 107 would be replaced by omega square. As we know, the sum of 1 plus omega square is equal to 0, so we can say omega plus omega square will be equivalent to minus 1, and minus of minus 1 is going to be plus 1. So our final answer is going to be option 3, that is 1. Now discussing the y part, the only concept which we are going to discuss in this problem is the cube root of unity. So we know the roots of x cube minus 1 are called cube root of unity. So what we can say that x cube minus 1 is equal to 0. The solution of this are going to be the cube roots. They're going to be the three. If we are going to factorize this, x cube minus 1 is going to be written as x minus 1 into x square plus x plus 1, and solving it will be getting x is equal to 1 and minus 1 plus iota root 3 by 2 and minus 1 minus iota root 3 by 2. We call minus 1 plus iota root 3 by 2 as omega and minus 1 minus iota root 3 by 2 as omega square, because we know that minus 1 plus iota root 3 by 2 square is nothing but minus 1 minus iota root 3 by 2. That is why this root is called omega and this root is called omega square. So we can say cube roots of unity are 1, omega and omega square, where 1 is a real root and omega square are complex roots. Now the geometrical representation on Argand plane, if you are going to say this is an Argand plane, so this is going to be your real axis and this is going to be your imaginary axis. I am going to draw a unit circle whose center is origin. Now it will cut x-axis at P, and let's say I'm going to draw 3 equi-spaced points P, Q, R. This Q is going to be the omega and R is going to be the omega square. So we can and as you see, omega and omega square are mirror image with respect to the real axis. So we can say the conjugate of omega is omega square and the conjugate of omega square is omega. So they both are conjugates of each other. Now talking about the properties of cube root of unity, we know 1 plus omega square would be equal to 0, because the sum of the roots of x cube minus 1 will be 0. As we can see that the sum of roots in a quadratic equation is minus b by a, and the sum of roots in cubic equation is also minus b by a. Even the equation is ax cube plus bx square plus cx plus d is equal to 0. And this equation x cube minus 1, we don't see any b part, so that is why we say 1 plus omega square is equal to 0. And the second thing, that as all the three are the cube roots of 1, which means cubing them would always result in 1. So omega cube would be 1 and omega square to the power 3 would also be equal to 1. Hence omega to the power 3k is equal to 1 would be omega to the power 3k would be qualified as 1, and similarly omega to the power 3k plus 1 would qualify as omega, and omega to the power 3k plus 2 would qualify as omega square.